Hello wonderful people, it is Genevieve, and in this video I'm going to show you how to draw this kind of customizable couple line art picture that is absolutely super easy to do, and it's the perfect gift for any anniversary or even like Valentine's Day. So the first thing to do is obviously to create a new canvas based on the size that you want your final product to be. And if you're not familiar with resolution for printing, go ahead and check out my modern wall art tutorial because I did include a section about resolution in there, and that can be very helpful. Otherwise, just use those measurements, and that's going to give you the size of a canvas if you want to print on a regular piece of paper at home, which would be a 8.5 by 11 inches. So in the description below, I will link to my own Procreate file. If you just want to use that one, it might be easier. And in any case, the next step is going to be to pick your background color. So I'm going for this grayish, pinkish type of color, but you can use really any color of your choice. And if you are using the Procreate file that I linked in the description below, you're going to notice that I've included this really nice paper texture on a separate layer that is absolutely optional, but it can add a really nice feel to your piece. So anyway, with that said, the next step and the first real step is to pick a picture. So I'm using this reference picture that I found just on Unsplash, but in your case, I recommend that you add and insert a photo that is like the one of your couple, and you can just position it and resize it so it's where you want in your canvas. But again, in my case, I'm just using this random picture of a random couple just for the example. And you're going to want to lower the opacity so it's not overwhelming. So somewhere between 10 and 15% is kind of a sweet range in my opinion. Once that is done, you're just going to create a layer on top, and you're going to rename it to the name of one of the person. So in my case, I don't know the name of the guy, so I'm just going to rename it to man. And you're going to set your brush to black. Speaking of brush, you can use whichever one you like. I'm going with dry ink because I like the texture of it. And you might want to increase the streamline, which is what helps the stroke be super smooth. So as you can see here, the more I increase the streamline, it kind of makes all the curves nice. So for this, I recommend you actually increase it somewhere around 65-70%. And you can just do that by double tapping on the name of your brush for pretty much any brush actually. And the drawing process itself is very easy. One thing I recommend is to skip the face altogether because it gets a little bit creepy when you actually start drawing the facial feature. But you can definitely experiment with it if you're in the mood for it. Otherwise, I quite like starting with the ear for some reason. I just feel like it's a nice, easy point to start with. And then you just go and outline your jaw, then the other ear, and you might want to go up to the hair, kind of give this really basic idea of the texture of the hair, then going back to the first ear and outlining the top part of the hair, if that makes any sense. And I mean, there is no rule to this process. We are trying to give this idea that there is just one line, but you can really lift your pencil whenever and just kind of see what's going on and undo or redo and really just experiment. So feel free to try stuff here. Because one line that you might draw might look good, and then one that is very similar but slightly different might look even better. So really just experiment and be super loose. And yeah, once you've drawn kind of the shape of the head, I recommend you go down and do the neck. And if there's any part of the shirt that is kind of surrounding the neck, you can outline that as well. And you might run into some parts of the body that kind of overlap each other, just like here we have this hand that is on top of the shoulder. And although it is not part of the man, I'm still going to outline it a little bit so that I don't break my continuous line. Because that's part of the challenge of this, is to give the idea of just one continuous line, even though we are taking our pencil off of the screen sometimes. You do want to kind of pretend that it's just one big continuous line. And from there, from the neck, you go to the shoulders and you move down to the arms. And if there is some texture in the clothes, which is probably going to be the case, it's really to try and find the balance between showing some of the folds, because that really helps understanding the shape and the proportions and just like the movement in general. But you also want to not draw all of them, otherwise it becomes way too busy, and that's kind of where the focus becomes then on the folds of the clothes, and that's not the most important part of your artwork. So yeah, just try to find a balance between showing what is happening in the clothes in terms of movement and in terms of details, but also without going overboard with it, because then it overpowers everything. So yeah, you're drawing the arm, and then you're going down to the side of the body. And if you have kind of a bottom up, bottom up, how do you call that? A shirt with buttons. My French self is showing up today. Yeah, you would just draw the button parts in the middle, then go back down and to the other side of the body. And here we see, well, actually we don't see the other arm of the guy. So I'm just going to kind of go down the same line on the side of the body and draw this like little part of hand that we kind of see, and just go back down and do the legs as well. And the legs are usually fairly simple because there's not a lot happening there. It's fairly straightforward, but it's a really fun exercise to just try and see like in how few strokes you can draw those legs. Whatever that sentence that I just said was. I think the shoes are a really cool thing that you can add a little bit more details on. So like the laces and even some details in the way the shoes are built. It kind of helps ground the piece, which I know might sound a bit crazy, but having shoes are a bit more detailed, within reason, of course, just help, ground the piece. So you can see here, if you had your picture, you should have a really nice simple outline of one of the people. In my case, I have the man, and you can then create another layer very easily. And this one you would rename to the name of the other person, which in my case is going to be woman. You're gonna do pretty much the same steps. So activating your picture layer again, so you can see what you're drawing. And starting with the ear, going down and outlining the jaw. What am I doing there? Struggling a little bit. Okay, whatever that was. Yeah, so the ear, and then, oh, I'm not outlining a jaw. There you go. I'm drawing the entire face for some reason. So you can see here, you can really just experiment. And the thing with long hair is you don't want to really draw the hair itself. You just want to draw the movement of the hair. So don't overthink it. Still go super quickly and loosely. And you can see here, I'm just kind of drawing the main strands, kind of just the movement that they have. So they're long, they're flowy and wavy, and they're all collecting together kind of on the back of the man in this massive hair blob. So there you go. Once you're done with the hair, neck, shoulder type of part, you're just going to go down the arm, and then in this case we see a little bit of the back, so that's what I did. Then going back up the arm, and we're gonna do the hands. And the hands, they're so easy to just overdo again because there's a lot of details at the end. So you do want to show the fingers and like not have it look like mittens. But don't draw the nails. In my experience, that's not a good thing to do. And don't draw like all the little crevices in the hand if you have open hands. That quickly looks really creepy. So yeah. And again, here we kind of have a limb that is separated from our main line. So I just went ahead and kind of follow the man's arm again to get this idea of just one connected line. And then I went down the leg and down the feet, or the foot, I should say, which kind of like the hand, you want to keep it fairly simple, so don't bother with the nails at all. And then back up this leg. Now you're going to notice here we have kind of an issue because this part of the body is totally separated. It would be such a long line to just kind of connect either the head with this arm or like the feet with the other feet, the foot with the other foot. Why am I struggling with English so much today? I'm sorry. So you can kind of cheat if you have this scenario and just start a new line, basically. As long as it's touching another line, it should look okay. And you know, here I'm drawing two total strangers, so there's not like any specific detail that is important here, or at least I don't know about them. But if you're drawing someone that you know, like yourself or your partner, there might be a few things that I'm not including here that you might want to include. For example, if on their shirt, like their favorite shirt, there's, I don't know, like a bunny, you might want to actually draw that bunny, even though it might be a bit more details than what I would be doing in the shirts, because that's a really nice way of adding some details that would be very easily recognizable and really help the piece feel more personalized to whoever you're gifting it to, or if you're keeping it for yourself, it just makes it feel more you. And as you can see, creating the outlines is really easy. But right now it looks a bit dry and could be improved. So I'm going to give you a few tips to make your piece feel even more interesting and just rich and nice. So the first tip is to actually change the color of the outlines. So you can see here I'm selecting the color that I use for the background and just making it darker. And then I'm going to drag the color over my stroke, making sure the threshold is 100% to recolor the entire stroke. You're then going to, if you're using this technique, do the same thing, but this time with a lighter version of your background color, and you're going to color the other character. And that should bring so much life to your piece and just make it feel way more interesting. As you can see here, it's so much nicer than just this black outline. At least that's what I feel. And don't be afraid to spend like a little bit of time on this step to figure out which colors you like the best. Like you can see here, I went back and changed the color for the man to make it a bit more darker, because that's really the step that's going to make probably the biggest difference. Another cool little thing that you can do is to create another layer, put it below the two characters, rename it to plants, and on this layer you can draw like little leaves and flowers and branches and stuff like that. It's going to make your piece feel a bit more interesting. So I like starting with the color of one character and then kind of starting from the back of the other character, drawing some little branches and the little leaves. And at this step, you might want to go back to the streamline option that your brush first was at. So in my case, I think it was 26% or something like that, just because it's going to be easier to draw your leaves or like smaller elements at least. But yeah, so with the color that you use on one character, you're going to draw some branches starting from the other character, if that makes any sense. So you want to have kind of contrast between the two colors, because if you are drawing leaves and branches that were white starting from this white character, it would look like the leaves are actually like growing out of the character, which is not what we want. But by alternating the colors like this, it just kind of adds more detail and more depth, and just, yeah, it's a cute little detail element that you can add. Then you can also go and add some more of those little branches, switching the colors. So this time around the man, I'm going to be using this whitish pinkish type of color to add some more little branches and little leaves. And that's just a really nice way of finishing your piece, making it feel a bit more complete and kind of filling in some awkward gaps that might be left with just the way the characters were positioned. So yeah, this was how to draw a super simple, really cute, really sweet couple artwork, which is kind of like a line art, super modern, mid-century, boho, all those words in Procreate. If you enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to give it a thumbs up because it really does help the channel. And if you want more content like this, make sure to subscribe because I put out new videos every single week. So I will see you soon.